Welcome to the Irn-Cru podcast, an NFL podcast made in Scotland by NFL lovers. This is the preview crew, and I'm your host, Keith McGinty. Week 4 beckoned, and it's not really gone to plan for some of the teams so far this season. But hope springs eternal, and with 4 of the 0-3 teams playing each other this week, it could be the start of an amazing turnaround. To break down the best of the action, I'm joined by some of our finest crew members and an extra special guest, but we don't want to give away who it is just yet. First up, we've got the crew's resident Giants fan. Let's hope he doesn't drop the ball this week. It's Gav. Gav, how are we, buddy?
Very, very good. It's still early in the season, and 1-2 for the Giants. Hope still alive.
Yeah, off to a better start now. It wasn't looking too good in the first game, certainly the first 6 quarters, but things are slowly picking up now. Nickelback, Bryan Adams, Shania Twain, all incredible Canadian artists, just like our Canadian big cat himself. We're joined by Stu. Stu, how are we, buddy?
I'm doing absolutely fantastic. Just as fate would have it, Nickelback are actually from just up the road from where I stay. They're from a little town called Hanna, Alberta. So they're kind of some of Alberta's favourite sons. They don't quite have the same bad name here that they have in other parts of the world, which I'm not the biggest Nickelback fan, but I do not dislike them in any way, shape or form. So I'll always defend them and say, hey, those guys go out, they do what they do, and they do it well.
They got lucky. It's not their fault they became massive. I think at one point, somewhere in the world, a radio station was playing their song. It was amazing.
Yeah, I think, to be honest, I'm sure they're, crying into their bowls of, porridge, like whilst they're counting their millions of dollars. So I don't think they care.
What about James Vanderbeek? He's the only Canadian I really care about. Where's he from? Is he nearby?
I don't think he's from
Dawson?
here. I think he's Manitoba.
No.
I'd need to check. I can't. That needs to be fact checked. I think he's maybe Manitoba.
If you could look into that, I'd love to get him on the podcast sometime. That would be wonderful.
I'll find out. So just down the road somewhere in Canada. It's a small place.
The queen of NFL giveaways, more generous than the Bears O-line. We are delighted to say that we are joined by Claire DeBear. Claire, welcome to the Irn-Cru podcast. How are you?
Welcome, Hans. Cheers, guys. I do have my obligatory Irn-Bru in this glass ready to. Not sponsored. Not
yet. We're kind of we've not tagged them in anything just in case they take umbrage at our name. But no, that's the dream. One day to be sponsored by Irn-Bru. It's going to come whenever we get our Scottish franchise. It's definitely going to happen. Of course, you can follow the crew on X or Twitter at Irn-Cru. I know, at Irn-Cru. We're on Instagram, Twitch, everywhere. Wherever you can get social media, we are there. So make sure you follow us. Give us a like. Please subscribe. And we'd love to hear what you think of the podcast. Let's get started with our kickoff question. And tonight's kickoff question is in honour of Claire and the eternal hope that the 0-3 Chicago Bears can turn it around. And we're going to start our kickoff question with, what is your favourite redemption story in sport?
Well,
what's your favourite? Claire, I'm coming to you. Yeah, which team goes from zeros to heroes? Who's your favourite redemption story?
I have 2 thoughts here. I went, do I go a little bit off piste and talk about a player or a person who had a redemption arc, or do you want a team that's had a redemption? Which would you like? Because I've got 2 different answers.
We are delighted to have you. I'll let you choose. What's your favourite of the 2?
The one that I've sort of personally seen, I'll talk team then.
Oh, yeah.
Remember a few years back, Katrina hit. So Katrina hit. The Saints got absolutely wiped out. They were homeless for that season. That's why they played in London. And it was like the second international game, and it's still my favourite game. I get every time I mention this game, I get goosebumps. It's ridiculous. I take a friend to this game. as they go on, they build momentum and whatnot, and they're homeless. 2012 Katrina like wipes the thing out, and the dome was literally where people were hiding out, and it was the Saints became like a pillar of it was the bolt hole for people, and especially like the less fortunate. And they turn around, and in 500 days they beat the Bears. And if it was going to be anyone, you're like, oh, I don't mind Drew Brees and the Saints beating us to get to you're like, okay, I'll take my hat off about like when the Bears lost to Peyton Manning, you're like, actually, he actually deserves a Super Bowl ring. So you like, you know, it's decades later, and I can just about bring myself to say that now. But the Saints coming back, and that knitted that community and got the ball rolling, and you know who that was back, and I think that's a really great sort of comeback story. But as a player, if you have Disney Plus, there's a great movie called The Invincibles, which is about a young man called Vince Papale, who's a fan. Like me, you, everyone else. He's played a bit of ball. He goes out and plays mud ball and whatnot. And the Eagles are so desperate for talent, and they're the team known for throwing snowballs at Santa, that they had this joke sort of like, oh, we'll get some fans down and we'll get some PR and whatnot, sort of good news story. And the guy makes the team, and he legitimately, it's not like he'll make the team and he beat other professional NFL players to get a starting roster spot.
Starring Mark Wahlberg, I believe.
Yes. Not one of my favourite actors, but it's a really good. If you've got a few moments, it's definitely a really good sort of football movie to watch. And there's always as a woman, I knew I was never gonna get to play in the closest I was ever gonna get, But to know that someone out there actually lived the dream, for every NFL fan got literally plucked off the street and did it and turned it around. And I've got it's one of the I've got his autograph and a cleat for a giveaway. So
amazing.
Yeah.
You keeping that for a special occasion. That's amazing. Two great examples there. I've got to say the Saints certainly was one. I didn't really know much about. Remember Katrina hitting as a kid, but I didn't really know much about it until the TV series Tremé came out years later. I've talked about this in the podcast previously. I was a massive fan of The Wire, and this was the writer and the director of The Wire did the next project, which Tremé, and it was all about Katrina hitting and the city recovering. Just what the poor people there went through and how they tried to reclaim their city afterwards. And horrendous, but it's just amazing how sporting teams can be just that wee spark that people just rally around, and so much good things come from it. It's absolutely wonderful. From who dat to who they, Stu, I'm coming to you for your redemption story.
Yes, I was thinking about this a lot, but just before we get to it, and it's just on something that Claire shared there that I just wanted to kind of comment on. I don't know if you guys clocked earlier that actually in youth sports in Canada, Maya Turner just became like the first female to actually play in college sports.
A non-kicker, and it's usually one of my questions when I get to the NFL UK events. I'll ask one of the players, when do you think's a woman going to make the thing? And I'm in my 40s. I will see a woman take the field. It might be at one of the softer positions, or it might be like kicker or punter, But in my life, it's coming. She's going to have to be an absolute Amazon. Do not get me wrong. I live in hope that it will happen. Well, and I want her to be there because she beat everyone. I want her to be such a sensible choice, I do not want a token woman on any team. I want her biting, scratching, and black-eyeing men out of the way to get on a roster.
Yeah, that's I just thought I would kind of point that out as well, that we had that the other night there kind of thing in Canada, and that's for the University of Manitoba. And for me, like I'm a dad to two daughters as well, and they, especially Morven, who's my youngest, she loves watching football with me. And she's also going to be quite a tall girl. I won't get into the whole story. She has a genetic syndrome, so she's going to be a big girl kind of thing anyway. So she probably actually has a bit of a shot at maybe making it somewhere in a few sports, because there's a few guys that have the same syndrome as her that have made it more to basketball, but for her in football she could be a tight end or something, you know. So who knows kind of thing. So like, here's hoping kind of thing, and hopefully she can kind of keep the dream alive with that. But anywho, redemption stories. I'm gonna go with an obvious NFL one. It might not be my favorite, but it's the first one that popped into my head, and that is Michael Vick. The fact that you know, you have the guy who famously, or maybe infamously, was, and we've spoke about it in the podcast before in the past, the whole dogfighting ring thing, and he ends up getting charged, and he ends up getting, you know, jail time and things. And at the time, he was like a top quarterback. So you're thinking, Michael, why are you going down this kind of like weird illegal criminal path and bothering with that? You're worth millions, or you will be worth millions anyway. So anywho, does his time, comes back, and then ends up breaking all kinds of records and things anyway, and basically paving the way for guys at that whole kind of utility knife quarterback type player, where it wasn't just about being the guy that's all passing. So maybe Justin Fields, he might need to take a leaf out of Michael Vick's book.
But the icing on the cake for Michael Vick is he's left and whatnot, and now he genuinely runs and fronts a charity to help dogs. Yeah. He's literally gone from, you know, doing some naughty things to be going, not only saying I'm sorry, doing the time and the contrition properly. He's never sort of bad-mouthed or anything, and he's actively doing something about the thing he did, which is a proper sorry at that point. So yeah, to Vic, so show.
Yeah, so that's my kind of redemption kind of choice, is just for that. The guy actually went the distance. It wasn't just like a, you know, like you say, Claire, it wasn't just like a kind of paper apology or just a like, oh, I'm sorry, and then go on with his life and not care. Like, the guy's followed up.
That's pretty classy. Takes a lot of guts. And the thing is, when a lot of these guys join the league or are about to join the league, they're just young men. They're going to make silly mistakes. They're going to make stupid things. But they need people around there that can guide them and help them just grow and become good people. And it sounds as if this guy's been surrounded by some good people to help them there. Gav, what about yourself? What's your favourite redemption story in sport?
Well, I'm going to chip in quickly and say that Stu intercepted probably my choice of story. So Vic is right up. No, not at all. I think it shows. I mean, the Vic story. I mean, I think whilst you can't condone what he did at the time, I think the fact that he has turned it around, as Claire mentioned, to show that, not just to perform on the field, but to show contrition. It's great, because I think we do see so many stories in the NFL where it unfortunately doesn't turn out well. You know, the likes of, I guess, Aaron Hernandez probably been a particular recent one in the extreme. So yeah, I think when it goes well, it's something to celebrate. But I mean, as a Giants fan, actually, in terms of comebacks, we've been a victim of quite a few over the years. So maybe stay away from a few of those individual games. But I think for me, Kurt Warner is actually one of the great NFL comeback stories. So I mean, this is a guy who actually went undrafted in 1994 and spent 3 years basically bouncing around in Arena League, but actually got his shot, went to NFL Europe, which I know as a Claymores fan for 10 years, I think it's always great to see people that come out the league. In Kurt's case, he was with the Amsterdam Admirals, and within 12 months, he's starting for the Rams, leading them to a Super Bowl victory, goes back to another Super Bowl 2 years later, league MVPs, and again gets back to third Super Bowl, and came really close with the Cardinals in 2009 for the Steelers. So, I mean, he's obviously a legit Hall of Famer and an NFL legend.
Great examples, guys. Great examples. Really, really, really good. And again, in keeping with the NFL theme as well. Fantastic. Let us now turn our attention to this week's games. So what we'll do is we're going to preview 4 of this week's games. We have the Atlanta Falcons travelling to the Jacksonville Jaguars, but they've got a bit of a trek for this one. It's the first of our London games. We have the Miami Dolphins heading to New York State to play the Buffalo Bills. the Denver Broncos are going to Soldier Field to take on Claire's mighty Chicago Bears. And finally, we're going to have a wee look at the Arizona Cardinals, probably one of the surprise teams of the season so far, as they take on the juggernaut that is the San Francisco 49ers. So, first up then, let's have a wee look at the Falcons versus the Jags. Before we get into that then, this is the first of the London games. I've never had the pleasure of going to one of the London games. I think it'll probably be next year before I get a chance to go. Claire, are you going to this game on Sunday?
I will be attending this Sunday, and we've reached a really funny point in my fandom where I thought this would never happen.
Right.
I've now seen the Jags, or on Sunday, I would have seen the Jags play live more than I would have seen the Bears play live. Am I now a Jags fan? Edit that out. Edit that out. And I have been lucky with my autograph hunting and going to get things for giveaways and stuff like that. I do get invited to things for PR, and they're like, Claire, can you come? But can Claire the Bear not come? Can Claire come? And occasionally they've had to give me a jersey so that I don't ruin PR shots. So I have worn a Jags jersey, and there are pictures of me on the
This is an admission.
I know. Bless me, Father, for I have sinned, sort of thing,
I hope you had like bear socks on or something like that.
Oh yeah. Like anything touching my skin was Bears, but what was being shown was
Do you know what? It's a lovely colour, the Jags uniform.
I do feel the teal, I do have to say. And if, they came and they become the London Leopards or whatever, no, I am not abandoning the Bears. I absolutely could not. But I'd go and try and get a ticket occasionally and cheer and behave like a fan. So be quiet when they've got the ball and be noisy when they haven't and stuff like that. Because people really forget, without them and their commitment over the last 10 years, their 10 games over 12 years, we got no football, and they've gone from being a joke where against the 49ers, we cheered their first downs on like they were touchdowns. And I think there was 4 in the entire game. I might be wrong, maybe 7, but it's absolutely not. It was a absolute, stinker. To going on where they've rolled over the teams, the Ravens, and it's been really nice to watch them grow. Do I think they win this Sunday? I think this is going to be the acid test, because if they can turn the engine over for this game and beat the Falcons, who are looking quite good, then they look like a contender. But they have the week 4 is really funny in the NFL because you find teams who put their foot down and go. Teams that start badly after week 4 have had it. So this is the litmus test for the Jags for sure.
Gav, you've been to a few of the London games yourself, mostly to see the Giants, I believe. Is that right?
Yeah, absolutely. So I managed to take both the Wembley and Twickenham boxes with the first London games, Giants Dolphins in 2007, and then caught the Rams and Giants in 2016. And I think that was the game where Landon Collins had his rather dramatic interception return where he broke about 20 tackles on the way to the end zone at Twickenham. So, good experience. I guess one of the big things with these UK games, as Claire says, everyone has, I guess, their own affiliation, but, it's something to point out every time the NFL comes across the ocean is just, every jersey's represented there. It's it's a completely different atmosphere, but all the same, that the fans will get behind whoever's playing. And creates a great atmosphere, and I think we'll see the same again on Sunday.
Thoroughly looking forward to the game. It's a 2:30 kickoff time here, Stu. A little bit earlier for you guys over the Atlantic there. What time's kickoff for you guys?
So if it's 2:30, that's 7:30 in the morning. But I mean, as I said, I have kids, so I will be up anyway long before then. So there's no danger in me missing the cutoff for the fantasy players.
You'll be all right getting on the team.
I'll be checking. Yeah, I'll already be checking the team news at like 6:30 in the morning or whenever it needs to be at my time to make sure I'm not making any mistakes. Because I do have. I know we don't want to talk fantasy too much right now, but relevant to this game, I drafted Trevor Lawrence. I didn't go too early on him, but I was kind of waiting for like that end of the run of I guess like the better quarterbacks early.
Yeah.
Although admittedly, I was kind of slightly disappointed because I seem to remember Justin Fields had went just before I grabbed Lawrence, and maybe I actually dodged a bullet there, but maybe get to that. But anyway, like talking about this game in particular, though, like one of the things I've noticed with Jacksonville so far is through the 3 games so far, they've actually had 9 drops, like passes. Especially, I think they've had like 6 of those in the red zone too. Through the first 3 games, that leads the NFL even more than Kirk Cousins and the Vikings, who also seem to love a drop this year. The Atlanta Falcons, yes, they've started well, but the one thing I would say is Jacksonville, as much as they've not been winning games, the one thing that their defense does really well is stop the run. And the one thing that Atlanta seems to be able to do well is run. Apart from last week when they were playing Detroit, and I think in the first half, I've got my notes there, that they only managed 20 yards rushing in the first half. So if Jacksonville can stifle the run for Atlanta, I think this is actually going to be an easy win for Jacksonville, and I think this is going to be them finally starting to click and kind of get going through the motions. So all it takes is just a few of those drops to not be drops. That's first downs or that's touchdowns. So.
You've mentioned a couple of the drops there. Someone who's actually done really, really well and had one of the catches of the season so far is Zay Jones. He's not going to make it, according to reports just now. But they've still got Evan Engram, Christian Kirk, and of course Calvin Ridley. That's the guy that we're all hoping is really going to take off this part of the season. Gav, do you see the wide receivers really being able to step up in this game? Is Trevor Lawrence going to be able to make the transition over from America to the UK, and is it going to be up his game for this one, knowing that they've got the bye next week?
Yeah, I think this is an interesting one because when we did the preview podcast back in August, or pre-season previews, Calvin Ridley was the guy that I'd called out to crush it, and had a fantastic first week. Had a 100-yard game, touchdown in the win over the Colts. Since then, it's been a bit of a mixed bag. I mean, granted, they had to play the Chiefs, but I think the Texans, that's a game where, CJ Stroud has a breakout, but you would have liked the Jaguars to win that one. So I think there probably is a bit of a step up to be had from the whole cast for the Jaguars. But I think, as Claire said, September's always a funny month just to find out who teams are. We do see some upsets, some banana skins, and I think this weekend is going to be the real proving ground for if the Jags can be for real.
If the Jags wide receiver core is probably maybe edging over the Atlanta Falcons, Claire, I think it's safe to say that the Falcons have got the edge when it comes to their backs there. What do you make of Bijan Robinson so far? He's been a revelation, it seems.
Is it a lot? I'm not 100% sold yet, but it's close. But I'm a really tough critic, and you got to remember I'm once bitten, twice shy with certain. If it looks like a duck and sounds like a duck and quacks, it's never a duck for us, sort of thing. So.
Bijan Robinson so far 39 carries for 213 yards, an average of 5.46. Stu, what have you of his performances so far?
I mean, I will say I think that he is coming, and he is going to end. He does look to me as if he has the potential to dominate in the league, which is what we all thought going into the draft. The only down note I have is, he's still basically splitting carries, and I don't know if that's maybe because Atlanta's kind of looking at this as well, where we don't want him getting injured too early or something like that. But because what's the other guy? Is it Algier, or I always forget how you pronounce his name?
Algier.
Algier, that's it.
Sorry, Algier it is.
Algier. So yeah, he's basically been 50-50 with him for carries. And I mean, whether you want to look at that and say, okay, yep, it's load management, and it could just be me being grumpy as a fantasy owner and saying like, no, I want to see Robinson getting pounded into the ground and like, playing every single snap. But no, with the carries he's had, he's looked good. But like Claire, I'm kind of going to say I'm not sold on, yes, he is he's going to be a premier back in the league completely yet. But I would say it does look like he is coming and he's doing all the things he needs to do. One other thing, actually, I know earlier I said that, Trevor Lawrence has had the drops, and for the passing game, it might be too much for the Jags. I should point out that the ex-Bengal, Jesse Bates III, is leading the league in interceptions, and he's playing for Atlanta this week. So, I mean, that's the one thing, if you're looking at a team that's dropping the ball a lot and maybe not doing as well in the pass game as you would think, maybe watch out for Jesse Bates as a sneaky kind of guy that might be stealing the ball and going the other way with it.
What about Desmond Ridder? Claire, what have you made of his? They seem to be leaning on him, going on him. He's backed up by Taylor Heineke, who did very well at times for the Washington Commanders last season. Do you think Ridder's doing enough so far to command the job to keep his place, or is he in danger of possibly losing out?
I think he's doing okay at the moment, but has he got the legs? Are they going to sort of sit back, you go in fresh, and if there's it won't be like a punishment changeover sort of thing. It will be like, we'll just put you back, refresh you up, and then go back in, or for games when it's tighter. Because I think the Bears have suffered with this, where we've just pounded certain players over and over again, and then when the backups have to take the field because they're injured and stuff, then they haven't had the reps and whatnot in a real situation. So having someone who's potentially taking your job, like when the Pats were hot, and it was next man, do your job sort of thing. Yes. Having a running mate that encourages you to keep running faster because they're going to have your job is a sensible thing.
Yeah. Play the hot hand, I believe the term is. That's it. It certainly gives you that wee bit competitive edge that you need in the QB room there. Gav,
I was going to say, I think that early winning record, I think a 2-1 start for the Falcons, that probably buys a wee bit of breathing space for Ridder at the moment. And I guess in terms of expectations, we looked at this division coming in, as a whole wasn't great last year, but Falcons very much in the mix. Now, I guess the thing is, as long as they can remain competitive, he's going to get a chance. It's not been the strongest start from, I think, going back to last season, he's thrown 4 touchdowns in 7 starts, which isn't outstanding numbers. But I guess if you look at what the Falcons do have, they have that strong running game to support. I know Stu's obviously crying out for the for Bijan to take all the carries there, but he does have a pair of backs that is going to help, lighten the load and just take a little bit of the attention away from him to give those opportunities. And Falcons have a decent set of young receivers as well. Drake London doing pretty well for them. Yeah. So there is that supporting cast, and yes, maybe the numbers aren't that impressive at the moment, but I think he's going to get every opportunity to make a good fist of it.
Be correction. I mentioned usually with the London games you've got your bye week the following week, but the Falcons actually are are at home to the Houston Texans next week, and the Jags are, where is it, week 5? They have they're back again. They have another home game, but this time they're traveling over to Spurs Stadium. Well, it's not a home game, it's the Bills' home game, but they're still playing in London. So,
Jacksonville's at home for every single one of those London games they play.
Pretty much. Great couple of games coming up, and I think whenever we're talking about Ridder there, we need to actually look at Trevor Lawrence as well, and just the potential that everybody can see in him, and just how that they're starting to get that out of him. This will be a big test because the worldwide audience are really going to be watching the London games. Might be a wee bit early for some of the American and North American audiences, but this is going to be a great way for him to showcase his talents and what he's got, and have a wee bit of a bounce back, because people were starting to doubt the quality that they've got after a couple of poor performances. So be great to see what Trevor Lawrence can do. I'm really looking forward to this. Claire, I'm going to come to you first for predictions. Who's going to win this game then for you on Sunday?
I want to be right more than I want to be political. So I do think the Falcons tip it, but I do want the Jags to win it. I really do. And if me cheering on the end zone is going to have any impact, I will give it my the full beans for the Jags. If I can have any impact, it's a fair cop. So yeah.
Fantastic. So Falcons for Claire. What about yourself, Gav?
Well, I mean, I think this is a game that could go either way, but I do think it's going to be a case of who needs it more at this stage of the season. I think the Jaguars want to be contenders. I think they can be contenders, and I think they'll get the win Sunday.
What about you, Stu?
I've really went back and forth on this. I mean, mainly just because, like I was saying, I get that Atlanta has the very good run game, and the Jaguars are very good in run defense, and the Jaguars should be good at passing, but it's not quite came off so far. I do worry that like Bates and crew are pretty good kind of thing for the Falcons as well. So usually I err on the side of being conservative, so I would normally say Atlanta here, but no, I'm gonna say Trevor Lawrence does enough, and I think he's gonna break out a bit at least. Maybe not like I'm not expecting like a 400-yard passing game or anything like that, but I think the Jaguars do enough, and I think they win. But it's gonna be close, like we're talking 3-4 points.
Okay, and I'll just tie it up then. I think the Falcons are going to do this. I think it'll be the running game for me. Running game for me, yeah, with Desmond there. It'll be the running game for me. Bijan, I think the guy's terrific. The twitches, the moves that he's got, he makes. I think it was the Packers that he was making look absolutely silly with their attempted tackles. I can see him just continuing to gain in confidence. I don't see him really coming up against a defense that's going to lay him out flat, that he's going to feel properly welcome to the NFL for a wee while yet. So I think him, Algier, as well as the kind of number 2 in the double-headed snake there. I can see that being a potent attack.
Yeah.
Potent attack there for the Falcons. Okay, fantastic. Moving on then, we will head back across the water to upstate New York for the Dolphins. Almost record-breaking Dolphins traveling to the Buffalo Bills. Gav, how about you start us off with this one? What do you think let's go for the home team then. Bills, how have you seen their season developing so far?
Well, I guess the big shock for Buffalo is probably dropping that week 1 game to the Jets in overtime. Josh Allen did not have a good night. We all thought that was going to be a big battle between Josh Allen and Aaron Rodgers. Instead, it turns out that Zach Wilson, after the 4th snap of the game, is under center for the Jets, and at that point you think, okay, this is going to go to the Bills nice and easy, but it really wasn't to be. So I think that was a bit of a wake-up call. And since then, the Bills have steadied the ship. They've picked up their wins over the last 2 weeks and very much in contention. I guess the big thing is, everyone going into the season thought, that AFC East battle was probably going to be between the Bills and the Jets, and actually it's the Dolphins now that are sitting there at 3-0 and looking pretty dangerous. Obviously, with the game, Buffalo's got the home field advantage, but maybe not quite the same kind of advantage in September as it would be maybe in December and late season, particularly against the side like the Dolphins. But I guess this is one that's going to have major implications for where the division's heading. This is I guess Josh Allen's a guy that I think we've all been pretty impressed with over the last few years, but it's potentially struggled to win some of the big games, both in the playoffs and also there was against the Vikings last year at home, struggled to put away a game against them. So I think this is one they've got to be looking at. This is a real test of their capability.
Josh Allen was 20 for 32, 218 yards with 1 touchdown and 1 interception last week, Claire. The Bills dominated throughout the game against the Commanders, ended up winning 37-3, and finished strongly with 21 points in the fourth quarter. Is this going to be the first real test for the Miami Dolphins?
Well, I just thought, well, you sent me this script and I was looking up and started doing a bit of homework for the podcast. I came across a really nice fact. So, Kirk Cousins is leading offensive rushing for all 3 weeks with just over 1,000 yards. Tua has got just over 1,000 as well, and then it's Herbert, Matthews, and Stroud goes down. I do think this game will decide who tops the division, but who gets a wild card place. Neither team can sleep on this game, and will the Dolphins have a winner's hangover from that 70-point unicorn that I can't remember the last time. 50 burger is rare enough, but a 70. The NFL UK asked fans what it was called, and it's like, it's a unicorn. It's a unicorn. We've only seen so. If Tua stays healthy and doesn't get concussed, isn't he wonderful? Sort of thing. If you look after your main asset and give them an O-line, Bears Stefan Harris, if you're listening.
As a Bengals fan, I can also speak to the O-line thing too. So
yes. It's going to be spicy. As you say, I do think it's luck might, but having the Dolphins go up north now, as you say, play the game in November or December is a completely different game when the Bills are nice and cold and come down to Miami when it's 100+ degree and the humidity,
Yes.
So they could get lucky on the scheduling, and that could literally be the knife point for this game and that division, which is a little bit scary, but that's how tight and lovely it is. And isn't it wonderful to talk about that division without mentioning the Patriots?
Listen, I'm trying to be nice and try to make that thing, but long may it continue. They've had their time in the sun. Scud, if he was here, he was meant to join us tonight. I'm sure he would be fighting the Pat's corner, but no, I'm happy to see a little bit of sunshine heading towards the Dolphins' way, and possibly for the Bills as well. We discussed, Stu, a wee while ago, is this possibly the chance for the Bills to really push for a Super Bowl? Is it kind of maybe fading now? But I think they've came back strongly in their past couple of games.
Yeah, no, I mean, I would say it's just, in my homework I was doing earlier, I noticed something as well, just mainly that the Bills, I have it written down over there, they have the best home record in the league since 2020. They're 25-6 in those games. So I know it's maybe not snow time quite yet. I mean, it's going to be coming here pretty soon because it's starting to get colder in Alberta already, but it's 20 degrees today, but it's getting cold overnight. So the Bills, I wouldn't say their chances are gone at all for it, and especially for this game this week, I actually think they have a very, very good chance, because as much as Miami have been absolutely electric on offense, they've also been giving up big yards. If you look at it, week 1, they gave up 433 yards against the Chargers. They gave up 288 against the lowly New England Patriots. And then even against Denver, who they obviously completely blew out, and I realize some of it's maybe in garbage time towards the end, they gave up 363 yards then. So if you give the Bills 363, 400 yards of offense, they're going to score points, and probably more points than the Broncos would. And the other side of it too is Miami's defense, their pass rush hasn't been going at all. I think they're maybe 30th or 29th in the league, like for, combined with sacks, quarterbacks, hits, that kind of combination. So Josh Allen potentially could have a good game here. On the other side, though, like the Miami just put up 726 yards of offense, though, in that last game, and looked absolutely dynamite. And they seem to have every fastest player in the league. So, as good as the Buffalo defense is, maybe they're just not quick enough. So, we'll see. It should be an interesting game either way.
I
You
think
can't get tackled if you're not there, can you? It's better to be fast and strong in American football. Get out the way.
And I think
I remember last.
Go for it, Gav. I think that's the big thing for the Dolphins is, I mean, you're right, Stu. Obviously, I mean, you've seen that shootout. It was a crack. Everyone's talking about the Dolphins against the Broncos. Week 1, though, I think against the Chargers was a fantastic game.
Yeah.
And this is a team that it could well be all they need to do is just score one more point in you, and they've got the legs to do it. And I think maybe kind of, but giving a little bit of a spoiler for fantasy picks later, but it's the fact that there's so many ways the Dolphins can hurt you. They've got Tyreek Hill. They've got a pair of running backs that are going to do the damage. I mean, we talked about the Falcons previously and how they've got two solid running backs, but a question mark over the quarterback. The Dolphins have got every base covered. And so, I mean, I think nobody's asking any questions about Josh Allen, but this is a Dolphins offense that looks like they can keep pace with anyone.
Just before I give a bit of credit to Stu for his sleeper and stud pick from last week, the corresponding match last year ended up, it was played on the 18th of December, so I think it was a snow game. I can't remember exactly, but
it was a snow game. I remember
it was a snow game, wasn't it? Yeah,
that was the one where the Dolphins looked like they were going to win, and then the second that the snow started to fall, I think like one flake hit the field, the game turned on its head. It was as if Buffalo just suddenly went, "We are Supermen now. It is snowing," and they just went, and their defense stepped up, and it was a great game.
Yeah, if the Seahawks have the 12th man, Buffalo have the snow. The Bills have the weather. Yeah.
That's it. They're talking about the new stadium. People were criticising them for not building a dome. This is an X factor. This is what they need. But I remember that game, the run up to it. Mike McDaniel was just with the positivity all the way, wishing it was colder. That was it. He kept saying, "I wish it was colder. Wish it was colder." And everybody was talking about how the Miami Dolphins were going to freeze up in the north. They didn't do that. They did look like they were going to win that game, and as Stu said, it really turned. 32-29 was the last fixture there, but really, really interesting. And Stu, to give you your credit, you did say that Raheem Mostert would be your pick for running back last week, and boy, did he do well. But I can't believe it. He was usurped by A-Chain, getting just a couple more points. It was ridiculous.
I had running
backs getting
2 benches last week. A-Chain, I was like, I'm not going to throw it. Even though I'd called it in the podcast, I said like, the Denver run D, not great. That's why I had Mostert doing really well. So and we'll get to the Denver run D in the next game as well. But yeah, you're right. A-Chain, I left him on my bench twice. Still won those games though, actually, interestingly enough. But it was like 63 odd points or something like that I left there.
Amazing. Where is this game going to be won then, Claire? Who do you think is going to be the outstanding player? Who's going to crush it for their team?
I think this is a coin flip, but I think Tua has got the bit between his teeth, and he is going to show everyone that he's not made out of glass, and that if you invest in him, you know. But I do think it's going to be bombs. I think it's going to be an old-fashioned shootout, which I quite like. And the annoying thing is, this game is on as everyone who's coming back from London, it will kick off, and we'll all be in that Wembley crush watching up. And it's the worst thing because everyone wants signal, and so we're all being really. And it's like, if you're standing in a field, you'd find it, but with the other 80,000 people with you, you never get any signal.
I'm sure Kevin Bacon and EE will be able to keep you all right. You'll be fine for that. Who's winning it for you then? Who do you foresee taking the win in this one?
I've got like you said, like the Bills have gone from having a Super Bowl door wide open to they've now got a window, but the window is closing, and it's a bit. I'd love to see the Bills win a Super Bowl. They definitely deserve, but I think it's the Dolphins. So I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. All my Twitter followers, I do apologise, but yeah, I think the Dolphins take the gas from last week and like, right, let's put on another show. Let's go where it matters, especially in a divisional game. So yeah.
Stu, is there going to be a hangover then for the Finns this week?
You know what? The more I'd written down one team as the team I thought that was going to win it before this podcast, and now that we're in it, I've completely changed my mind, and I am now going to say that I think the Dolphins win. I don't think they'll be hungover. I think they're going to go in there with a point to prove, and I don't know. I just kind of like the fun side of McDaniels and the fact that he will run up points, but he will also show respect and not go for the record or whatever it was he did last week. He just seems like a nice guy that wants to have fun.
Why?
Why? I know. It's so funny, but no. In terms of standout players, though, for either team, and I think this is where it will hinge for the Bills. It's going to be on defense, and I've been watching out for Terrell Bernard, the young linebacker they have, because if they can get him going again, if he can maybe get after Tua, and if he can stop the run game or can assist in stopping that run game as well, that might help. But then you've still got Tyreek Hill's over the top, and I think Waddle's back this week as well, isn't he? He wasn't even playing. We didn't even mention that. So Waddle wasn't even there last week, and the Dolphins still did what they did. So
yeah, he's trended towards playing. So another threat for that team. It's ridiculous. Have you not learned anything from draft day? You've got to stick to what the note says.
Yeah.
Dolphins no matter what.
Yeah.
Gav, what about yourself?
I think we're kind of going flying the face of the bookies here, because I think that the Bills are still down as 2.5 point favourites for this one.
Yeah.
I'm going to go with the hot hand here and go with the Dolphins as well. I think just the way they've been playing so far, I still think the Bills are going to have something to say come January, but I think right now this is a game for Miami.
Fantastic. There we go. That is the Gridiron Crew. We are all aboard the Mike McDaniel Express here with that one. You see it all crashing down around us now.
I know, we've cursed it.
That's it. No, 4 nails in the coffin.
Unanimous is never good on this show, by the way. So
really,
I'm worried.
There you go. That's it. Stefan Diggs for 600 yards. There we are. Okay, next up then we are travelling to Soldier Field, Claire. Where
I'd like to end this interview immediately. Goodbye. No.
Sean Payton's high-flying Broncos are travelling to the Chicago Bears.
The crap bowl.
You've got to put the positive spin on it.
Is it too early for all Bears fans to write their letter to Santa and see if we can cash in some, I think only some help from a, deity-like figure is it's awful. And I've never felt like this as a Bears fan. I've always been that horrible, nasty hope thing that keeps us all going and whatnot. And last week, I'll be honest and I'll tell the truth. So I absolutely pleaded with Sky over Twitter going, please don't show the Chiefs-Bears game. If you didn't know, some girl called Taylor Swift was there. I wanted £1 for every time her name was mentioned. She wasn't even on the field. But it was, I watched it because I'm an absolute sucker. And at halftime, I have a thing where if we're losing, I go and shower, wash off the bad luck as a slight superstition. It also means I'm getting ready for bed at the same time, sort of thing. And then I come back. And it's the first time ever as being a Bears fan where I didn't come back for the second half. And not only did I not come back for the second half, I had such a bad taste in my mouth towards football and the 12-something punts. I watched The Fifth Element on DVD. So would you like my Fifth Element DVD review?
I love The Fifth Element. So.
Yeah, it's one of my favourites. we are shocking, and it's really horrible because last season we only won 3, and God bless Lovey for giving us the first round draft pick and what. Funnily enough, Lovey was our last coach where we were decent. If anyone can go back, and we fired that man at 10-6. What the were we thinking? Robbed. We've been robbed. I think we need to
you
do.
See, Rob, your weeks went from bad to worse. As Soldier Field was actually robbed, but was it $100,000?
We've had an FBI investigation last week. We had we had a coach quit. It's just like it's a comedy of errors minus the comedy. So yeah, I'm never ashamed to be a Bears fan. I always wear my colours and whatnot, but it is getting very hard to root on for below mediocre. I think I could stand on the O-line and do a better job than some of those lads, and that's awful. I've never said that before.
It sounds like the Bears need to do what the Eagles did and have just like a fan tryout. Like anybody.
Coach, I'll put the pads on. I'll have a go.
Like I'm pretty sure anybody in Chicago could probably go try out and then make that O-line right now.
There you go.
So
Phoebe Schechter, there's still a hope for you.
I've actually messaged her that I've privately DM'd her and gone, please, Phoebe, please. I'll empty my bank account. What's it gonna have to take? It's shocking. It's going to be on. People are going to want me to comment like this. And do we do? Now, the Commanders have done a different thing and they've had to clean house for a very, very different reason. But do we just have an utter sweep from the ownership down? Because I don't see anything being fair. And I've never said that before. And I feel a little bit like I might have a little cry later, but yeah, we need to do something because I was so hopeful with our 3 wins and like we're going to fix things on the off season. And I did a podcast week 1, like what the Bears, and it's like, well, I just want us to be in the hunt for a playoff position in November. You know, if we don't make the wild card, but I still want us to be in the game in November. We're not even in the parking lot of the game. And I hate it. And
Stu, you're the one that came out at the start of the season, and one of our good friends in one of our NFL groups is Grant. He's a massive Bears fan. He's got family from over there as well, and I think you kind of helped him bring his feet back to the ground whenever you were saying for teams that get the first pick and how they trade up and the improvements that they make to their team, it's still only worth, what was it, only extra 1 or 2 wins?
Yeah, like I had the numbers just at the start of the year there because I love my stats and stuff, but like I forget the exact percentages, but I remember when I was talking to Grant about it, because I remember going into the season, a lot of Bears fans and a lot of non-Bears fans, like well-respected pundits, had the Bears actually pushing for that division. And I remember looking at it going like, guys, there's only been something like 8, like, because the Bears, like you say, had 3 wins last season. So to get to 10 wins, which probably won't be enough to win the division, you would need 7, plus 7 going into this season. I'm going like on average, even if you have like an astronomically big, good turnaround, like you're looking at best, you're going to get 3 or 4 wins more than what you got the year before, which would take you to 7. And that's what I kept trying to say, Grant. I'm like, Grant, if you have a fantastic year, you're getting 7 wins compared to that. And I'm like, but I don't see it. It's like, I think maybe 2. I didn't have you being as bad as you have been so far. I will admit that, but
no one does, and that's the killer.
I figured it was going to be a 5-6 and that kind of 5 to 7 win range was where if I go back and look at my spreadsheet, all my predictions like for the start of the year, that's where I had them. I'll also note that I have a load of stuff written down here. I was going to come on and completely bash Justin Fields, but because of the way you were talking there, Claire, it would feel like I would feel like I was early life Michael Vick taking a puppy and like into a cage to start training it up. So I'm not going to do it. So instead, I'm going to talk about the positives.
I don't think Fields is the problem. I think it's everything
I don't think he is
around him.
I think you've summed up something I actually said to Grant. as well. I think last week I was messaging him, Keith, and where I was talking about saying I think you need to change it from the ownership that, like, basically the GM level that or president, like, down. It has to change because clearly scouting isn't good. Like, your drafting was okay, but it's more like your pro scouting. If you're giving up what's essentially a first round draft pick for noted Canadian Chase Claypool, that's not good. Like, especially like in a year where it's a deep draft. Hold on to that pick because it's. I mean, look at who you could have had at what was essentially 32nd overall. The positive side, though, I would say is there's a good chance because you've got your own pick this year. You've got someone else's first round pick.
We've got 5 picks in the first 3 rounds, if I remember correctly, if our equity is correct.
But I think you actually have a good chance at that second pick, like outside your own, being top 10, maybe even higher as well. So the one big plus side is
it's the Panthers. So we want them to suck as well. Sorry, Panthers fans.
If the Panthers suck, that's the positive side for the Bears. Is I think that they do have all the draft capital coming this year. Does it mean that you're done with Justin Fields though, and you're looking at a new quarterback? So, I mean, if you get the first overall pick, you have to. This guy's like Williams or whatever. Like he looks like an absolute home run.
I mean,
he looks like the biggest home run since Burrow, kind of thing. If we're talking, Bengals or whatever. So
one last thing, like at the beginning of I can't remember the guy who's coming. He's the QB, but he's gone back to college football and gone, I'm going to stay a little bit longer because I think he's absolutely petrified that the Cardinals are going to. I can't remember, and it's a snippet that went
they won a game.
And if teams are so bad, if players are thinking, hang on, not every player's Eli Manning, and if players start doing this, is the draft broken? And that brings up a whole nother conversation for another time. But if players, if QBs, if top talents are so scared going, I do not want to be the number one guy for this draft because I am avoiding the Bears and the Cardinals and the Panthers, that's a bad thing for our sport.
Another reason why a few of them are thinking about staying is that the money that they can now make in the college game because all of that has been slacked and loosened a wee bit. Gav, going to move away from this bear loving. We've had a nice big bear hug. Bring us back down to earth here. What's going to happen with Sean Payton's Broncos? They've just shipped 70 points last week. We've got a few points themselves.
Well, I mean, I guess this is the thing. I mean, this is sort of part one of the Owen Bowl this weekend with our own 3 teams. And I guess the thing is, the records look the same, but I don't think these are 2 teams that are created equally. Sorry, Claire. I mean, I think that obviously the Dolphins game, was an historic points tally or near historic points tally that the Broncos shipped. But if we look at week 1, week 2, these are 2 games, not necessarily against great, not even playoff teams, but the Broncos, they only went down by 1 to the Raiders, and they admittedly it took a Hail Mary to kind of put them with an inch. They only lost by 2 to the Commanders as well. It was a failed 2-point conversion from overtime. So this is a team that they have been in a fight. It's not been pretty, but there's a lot of pride, there's a lot of fight there, and I think you start to look at some of the other pieces in the puzzle. So you look, there's Russell Wilson, there's Sean Payton. These are guys who are winners over the course of their career. I mean, Sean Payton has come in and he's slated, basically what's happened in previous seasons in terms of the coaching, the discipline.
Yes.
And it's one of these things that I don't necessarily see the Broncos kind of turning this around into a playoff run, but I don't think they're going to be in contention for some of these top draft picks either. They are going to pick up wins, and I guess against sort of sides like the Bears, this is going to be one where they are going to have to just pick up the win.
They have talent there. It's just not quite coming together so far. If you look at their wide receiver room, Cortland Sutton, Jerry Jeudy, and this week I heard someone was talking up Marvin Mims. It doesn't have a ceiling. For somebody that's playing in the NFL, they really should have a ceiling in their house. That is ridiculous. That poor guy's going to get the hell for cold.
Maybe
No,
he's just
really...
he's training for snow games in Buffalo. That's all.
No, you can see that they are obviously trying to big up this guy, and they are looking for positive, something to really get behind and rally behind. Marvin Mims, there may be something there, but we've certainly not seen it so far. Is the problem, Claire, is the problem Russell Wilson? Is it time for maybe, Jarrett Stidham, I think, the backup just now that they've got? Is it time for Russell to maybe get a wee step away, or does he go again this weekend against the Bears? Is this the perfect game for him?
I mean, I feel a little bit because I've met I meet players and I get things signed and whatnot, and he seems like Russell Wilson seems like such a decent, nice guy, but he's so worried about like Peyton had to tell him off for stop kissing babies and doing social media stuff and whatnot. So I think he picks up a fairly easy win. The Bears are going to make it look ugly, but I think they get a win. But I don't think Russell's is going to be riding in Broncos country for very long. I do think his ticket to ride, his number's been called and his ticket's been punched. They'll see out this season. They might even at the end of the season do the sneaky thing where like, oh, he's injured, we better put the backup in and whatnot, so that they don't get too many W's and they increase their equity. But yeah,
Derek Carr, I think that's called, to get Derek Carr.
Yeah.
Poor Derek.
So yeah, but I think the Bears lose. I think it's a Broncos ride, and it's going to be awful. I absolutely hate that. I am a Bears fan, I promise.
No.
That's the thing, though, that they've just pounded you into the ground that much. Stu, I'll come to you, and then I'll come to Gav for your predictions for the game this weekend. Then, Stu.
So like one thing on that, just when you were saying there about Wilson, I will point out that in terms of like quarterback rating, he's sitting 13th in the league right now, and he's immediately, I think his rate is 59.4, and he's literally right behind Kirk Cousins, who is sitting 12th with 59.5, and you look at that's a guy that with all his passing yards and everything else. And then the next guy up just behind him is Lamar Jackson, who's obviously regarded as an absolute stud kind of thing too. So Wilson's looking, but still kind of middle of the pack, can I say, so to say, like in the league, but he is looking better this year, and he's done that in games like where he's been getting blown out by the Dolphins and things. So he's not that bad. So I think, just on that, and going by the fact that I don't want to beat on the Bears too much because I feel terrible, but I don't think this is going to go well either this week. I think the Broncos they're going to get the win this week, probably quite easily as well. And maybe in the long run, Claire, this might be the best thing that could happen for you, is just to suck it up and have
we get better. Shoulda, woulda, couldas.
Yeah. And then next year you'll have like a 7 or an 8 win increase, which goes against everything I said earlier about the stat thing and all that, but like it's coming.
What do you think, Gav? Is it Broncos time to ride into Soldier Field?
Oh yeah, I think I don't think it's going to be a blowout, but I think it's probably going to be certainly by more than 10. Say for the Broncos.
10-14.
There you go. I'm going to buck the trend here. Then I'm going to go. I've been watching the Bear on Disney Plus. Big fan, and I'm going to go for Chi-Town's finest to see if they can do it. Mooney, there you go. Mooney's going to be the star man this weekend for the Bears.
Not Chase Claypool. Come on.
If the Bears win, I will put money to a charity of your choosing. How's that then?
Appreciate that. Listen, that'd be wonderful. I'll match.
Michael Vick's Doug charity would probably be the way to go.
There we go. It sounds good. Right, moving on then. We'll look at our last game that we're focusing on. And then we'll have a wee chat about the other games, a wee one-liner for each of them. But one of the surprise teams of the season so far is the Arizona Cardinals, and they're traveling to Santa Clara to take on the 49ers. Gav, Have you been impressed with the Cardinals? Because I'll be honest, I was not expecting them to be so competitive, and that probably goes against everything that you should think about with these men pumped up in testosterone going out there to batter their opponent into the ground. We've been surprised.
Well, I have to, yeah. I mean, obviously with the Giants, the in week 2, we were 20-0 down at half time, a real fight to pull out a win in the desert. I know this is a game that we're doing a bit of a deep dive, but actually my gut feel in this game is that this is banana skin is the word that I have against this. I have the 49ers as the NFC's Super Bowl team. So, I not underestimate them at all. They've had a great start to the season, 3-0. But, even the dominant teams, there's one game quite often early in the season where it slips. And I just have a sneaky feeling about the Cardinals in this one. It's not about them being better in paper, because they're not. But I think we've seen that with the Cowboys. That everyone seen them blow away teams, Giants again including that one early season. Cardinals get a big win there, a statement win. But I mean, their other losses. Yes, they struggled in the second half against the Giants, but they put themselves in a commanding position. The loss to the Commanders in week 1 again. That was a tight game. So it's a team that's playing competitively without their starting quarterback in Kyler Murray. So I think no one expected them to, even though they're only 1-2, I don't think anyone expected them to be playing as competitively as they are. And like I say, not because of superior talent, but there's just a sneaky feeling that actually maybe the Cardinals do actually cause the upset here.
I suppose it happened last season when the high-flying Philadelphia Eagles took on the Washington Commanders, and nobody was expecting that one at all, Stu, and there was a big upset there. It happened in this league. It is just so competitive. That's one of the reasons why the NFL is must-watching entertainment. You just have to look across the full league and all the games there. There is something for someone to play with. There's a story to tell. Is there going to be a fairy tale this weekend for the Cardinals?
I'm going to go against what Gav said, and I'll read out what I have written down as my very first couple of sentences in my notes for this game.
Is it Cardinals no matter what?
No, I have written down here, San Francisco aren't coming into this game with key defenders and the O-line missing, like the Cowboys did. And also, by the way, their makeup of their team and the way Shanahan has the Niners prepare for things, they're not prone to underestimating the opposition ever. Yeah. So I don't know if they're going to walk into this one and, I know it could be a banana skin. Just this one I don't see. And the other thing on Arizona as well is they have been playing well. Like, I've actually loved watching Arizona in the bits I've seen this year, just because I'm like, this is great. They were having the perfect tank season, like competitive enough. Like, unlike the Bears, like they were like competitive enough but losing. But last week they screwed up because they actually won. And it's like, what are you doing? You don't want wins this early in the season. But what I will say is they are 27th versus the run. And one of the things the Niners do well, I mean, Purdy also does well passing, but they run the ball extremely well. Like, they have McCaffrey, and then they have Mitchell as well backing him up. So I could see the Niners, they could easily just kind of squish them kind of completely. And the only other note I have here as well is San Francisco converted every 3rd and long they had last week against the Giants. Like, they never missed one. Anytime it was like 3rd and 6 or 3rd and 9, they completed it and got a first down. So it's like I can't see them if they're not going to screw up against the Giants, they're not going to screw up against the Cardinals.
That's just the Shanahan efficiency right there, isn't it? It's that juggernaut just keeps rolling clear. One thing that I've been impressed with from the Cardinals has been the running game and how James Conner has done so far this season. I actually have him in one of my fantasy teams, so I've taken a special interest in him. And he's been doing wonderful. But when you think of the head-to-head against Christian McCaffrey and James Conner, it's going to be some matchup, that, isn't it?
I mean, it's almost like if the Cards win, it'll be like, yay, the Cards win. If the 49ers win, oh, we expect it's all upside for Arizona. It's all it's but it's hard to bet against Shanahan. He is a planner, and in this league, particularly seasoned coaches particularly do well. If you look at the stats, especially against divisional rivals where you've met them more than one, So I do think the 49ers win, but if they do, the media's just going to brush over it. But if the Cardinals win, they'll be lifted up high and carried off the field. So
that's not going to look pretty. Joshua Dobbs getting lifted up high and hailed as the hero. It's not going to look pretty at all. Is there any way that the Cards can win this? Claire, I take it you're going 49ers for this one?
Yeah. Sensible money's on the 49ers for this.
Yeah. Gav?
Oh, no, I've kind of come in the same. I mean, I'm feeling banana skin here. But I mean, I think if we're being sensible for a second here, the consensus is that this is a 14-point win for the 49ers. I don't maybe think it'll be quite as much as that, but I still think that the Cards cause an upset 1 week at home. Doing that 2 weeks in a row, you kind of get that emotional high from the upset win. It is difficult to ask that twice. I think this is going to be Niners by 9.
What about yourself, Stu?
Yeah, I have it Niners easily, like that same kind, and that kind of like 9 to 14 kind of score range. Like I see it like being more than a score anyway. So yeah, I think the Niners have got it in the bag.
The only thing I would say for the 49ers is that both Ayuk and Deebo Samuel had sat out of practice this week. Samuel's recovering from an injured to his ribs, and Brandon Ayuk's shoulder's still playing up a wee bit. So limited practice for Ayuk actually it was. So there's that chance. I think both will be fit. I think both will play. I think both will score highly against the Cardinals. So yeah, clean sweep there for the 49ers, but there is that chance. I think the surprise that the Cardinals have and the shock upset, I think they've used it last week whenever they brought the Cowboys back down to earth with a bump. I don't see it happening again 2 weeks in the trot. So there we go. All four of us are taking the 49ers for that one then.
So the Cardinals.
Guys, that was yes. Yeah, I'll be fiver on that. There we go. Yep. Now we are going to move on and we'll just have a wee quick brief look over the rest of the games. We've got another 12 games to go there. So Gav, I'm going to come to you first of all. I'm just looking for a headliner. The rest in one, we're just looking for a newspaper headline or a one-liner to sum up this match for you. Gav, we're starting with the Lions at the Packers for Thursday Night Football.
I mean, I like the Lions in this one. I think it's the Motor City's rolling 3-1 in the driving seat.
There we go.
Nice. That's classy. You'll notice I've abbreviated your name, Claire, to CDB.
Yeah.
Nice.
So, my headline would be Vikings take the Carolina Shore. I think I think the Vikings rape and pillage their way through the Carolinas, and I don't even think it's going to be close. I think the Vikings are going to be like, we've gone 3 and now they're going to have to put on a show. So yeah, that's my headline there.
Yeah, and who's the running back that they've just got from the Chargers? Chargers. Yeah. Who is it that they've just signed? Mattison's not been quite doing it. I know. I've got him in one of my teams. It just went right out of my head. Stu, you're good at this. Who's the running back? Frantically trying to get my team up just now. Sorry,
for which team? I was too busy trying to think of my headline. Cam Akers.
Yes. Cam Akers coming in the Vikings. Stu, I'll come to you next for the. Breaker's heart. Nice. Claire, you've
Had
just
to
been
do
us up there. Ravens are travelling to the Browns, Stu. Both teams that you're a big fan of, I know.
Yes, I love both those teams so much. If they could both lose, I would be very happy, but that's not my headline. For this one, I think Ravens down to the Browns. I think Cleveland somehow pull this one off. I think Myles Garrett is just too big and too strong, and Lamar's going to get eaten.
There we go. Gav, back to you for the Steelers at Texans.
So I'm going to say Texans hitting their stride. I think we've got a couple of young players there doing really well. CJ Stroud had a big game last weekend, but I mean he's aided by his receivers. They're getting Nico Collins and obviously Tank Dell doing really well there. So I think that's a Texans win coming up.
I will take the next game then. So who have we got? The Rams are travelling to Indianapolis to face the Colts. Anthony Richardson should be back for this one after concussion protocols. I think this is going to be a win for the Rams. So Stafford stuff to the Colts, I think I'll go for that one. I was going to go for something like no cup, still lots of love, but that could be a wee bit dodge with that one. I think we'll move on swiftly to Stu with the Bucks at the New Orleans Saints.
Baker Mayfield, he has a chance at the MVP. So I think the Tampa Bay Bucks are going to win this one. I'm liking the Bucks a lot this year.
We are massive fans of Baker, right up Baker Street for the crew here. It's great to see him just being happy in himself most of all. He seems happy. That's all we ever wanted for him.
Yep.
Gav, you've got the Commanders at the Eagles.
This is dirty rivals. Eagles win next.
I think so. I'm going for the Bengals are traveling to the Tennessee Titans. I'll go for Joe Burrow's Tigers trounce the Titans. I don't see Tannehill's Titans doing much there. I think Joe Burrow, your boys really need to just get the show on the road now, don't they, Stu? I think it's after the whiteout game with the fans and that wonderful uniform last week. I think this is what the team's needing. They're just going to kick on from here. Stu, I'm coming to you then for the Raiders at the Chargers.
Raiders set to bolt LA with the win. I think that if Jimmy G's healthy, I think he pulls it off.
I think so. I was actually a wee bit worried after some of the stuff that's been online about the Raiders today. I was wondering where we can possibly go with that, but I'm glad we moved swiftly on from that.
I figured I would keep to the game.
Gav, everyone's favourite. The Patriots are travelling to the Cowboys.
Well, I'm obviously getting fed all the rivals. I'll give the Cowboys some credit. I'm going to say back on the horse. This is it did slip up last week from their perspective with the Cardinals. Patriots have been competitive, but I think you've got to like Dallas at home to get back to winning ways.
It's going to be two great defenses really, really battling it out there. Claire, come to you. It could have been one of the games of the week. Someone's Achilles,
you can tell that the man who, if you watch before, there's a guy who works out the schedules and he does it with little bits of paper and he physically does it. If you've ever watched this thing, you can clearly see they wanted Mahomes and Rodgers, shoot out, and Rodgers got injured. It's probably my favourite sentence as a Bears fan. So it is Chiefs shoot down Jets is my headline there.
Chiefs shoot down Jets, nice. So finishes off then for the Monday Night Football game. Seattle Seahawks travelling to the New York Giants.
Seattle renames MetLife Stadium Metcalf Stadium. I think DK is going to feast.
I think so. He's been just coming to boil gradually in the past couple of weeks.
Yeah, it's
I
coming.
would love to see that. Love to see it.
Sorry, Gav.
Oh.
We are going to quickly fire through because, guys, we're just having that much fun. We've went for an hour and 20 minutes. So let's quickly fire through our studs and sleepers for this week. And our top quarterback then, Stu. Who's your stud for quarterback this week?
CJ Stroud is my stud. I think that CJ Stroud has looked great so far, and I think he's going to be good again this week. Then my sleeper is Russell Wilson. Not really a sleeper, but I think I could see him putting up points.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, Claire.
He's got to that stage where he is a bit of a sleeper now, isn't he?
Mm-hmm.
It's over to Gav then for the top running back.
Well, I mean, sleepers usually are flying under the radar, but I think for run back, it's got to be Devon Achane. We've talked about it already. Obviously, both Dolphins running backs had a field day last week, but I guess the big difference with Achane, some of your leagues out there, you might be lucky he's still in the waiver wire. This is a guy that had something like 1.9 points through 2 weeks in his first 2 games, and then logged 54. Now, I think you've got to say that things kind of will regress slightly this week. But I think you've got to take a flyer on that. And the one thing we didn't talk about game preview, the Bills are giving up almost 6 yards a carry to running backs. So there's an opportunity for both Dolphins backs to have a good day. But yeah, look out for Achane in the waiver wire if you can.
Fantastic. What about your sleeper then?
I think I'm still classing Achane as a sleeper for.
Is he your stud and sleeper this week?
He could very well.
There we go.
That's fantastic. That's fantastic. Just one person. I love it.
There we go. Both stud and sleeper. Claire, we're coming to you for the top wide receiver. Who's your stud then?
Who isn't talking about Justin Jefferson? I could have called that name out in my sleep. That was easy. The sleeper was a little bit harder, and I think because JJ Watt is being inducted into the Ring of Honor this weekend. So I take Tank Dell for the Texans to put a bit of a show on for the Texans.
Fantastic. That's a great shout. For the Deadliest D, I am going to go for the stud. Let's see. I'm going to go for the Eagles for the stud against the Commanders, and then a sneaky one. Who do go for? I think I'll go for the Seahawks. I'm going for the Seahawks. There is your sleeper against the Giants. I'm going to homer then for that one.
I love that choice.
In doubt, yeah, against the Giants. I'm going for on the road. We're starting to look good. Our cornerbacks are coming into the game a wee bit more. So yeah, I'm happy with that. Gav, you you mentioned earlier in the group chat that you've got a great tight end. We were looking forward to
Well, yeah, we'll more about that later. But I think actually I'm going to have to rise to some of this already. I actually think that your stud at tight end is going to be Darren Waller. The Giants. So, let's put the results to one side for a second here. I think the Seahawks are a team that they've had wins. They have also shipped yards big time against the opponents, against the Rams, against the Lions, and I think when things are going well for the Giants, which admittedly was only that second half against the Cardinals, but I think a lot is going to go through Darren Waller, so I'm looking for him to have a big day. But I think what you also had
that fantastic preseason game where Waller looked great for about 10 plays or something like that as well. So you've got that to hang your name on there.
Yeah, absolutely. But I think what I do really want to talk about is the sleeper for the tight end. So we've got a chap from the Chargers who has been flying under the radar quite a bit. So this is not even the Chargers tight end one. He's actually tight end 2. But he is. I'm actually trying to get the chap's name up after speaking to Donald Parham.
Parham, yeah, is it Parham?
Parham. So this is a guy who's 6th in overall scoring in your PPR leagues through 3 weeks. He's been top 5 tight end 2 those 3. So there's a little bit of feast and famine from this guy in terms of getting touchdowns. But the guy's 6'8". This is a big target for Justin Herbert in the red zone. And let's not forget the Chargers have just lost Mike Williams. So I think he's going to be go-to and someone really to look out for if you've not picked him up already.
Yeah, Donald Parham Jr. Thanks very much, Stu. Great choice. Sorry, Gav. And I'm going to Stu now for our top kicker. Your man didn't do too well last week. Your poster boy, Tucker. What about this week? Who are you taking for your studs, Stu?
Well, I mean, last week, I think I took Moody from the Niners was my prediction kind of thing. But I know he wasn't the top kicker, but he still did pretty well. This week, I'm going with the homer pick, though. I'm going to go Evan McPherson, purely because I think the Titans' defense has been, I know their run D's okay, but their defense has been bad enough that we're going to get in range. And Burrow is obviously carrying the injury, so he's not quite firing in all cylinders. So I could see us grounding out a few times. So I think Evans is going to get a few plus 40 and plus 50 yard attempts again this week. So I could see him putting up big fantasy points. My sleeper, though, slightly more interesting, is Daniel Carlson. He's not been great so far, but he is a very, very good kicker. It's just through lack of opportunity that he's not been great in fantasy. The Chargers D is not very good at all, though, so I can see Carlson getting quite a few chances, kind of thing, especially if the Raiders aren't going to be able to punch it in right at the end. So I could see him having a really good week and putting up good points. So if Carlson's floating around in your waiver wire and you're worried about whoever you have at kicker, he's the guy I would grab.
I've actually just dropped him from my team, as you said.
You finally get sick of him, and I'm like, sleeper. I mean, who knows? Maybe you were right, Keith. Maybe you were right.
No, I've just dropped him. I've picked up. Was it Jaime Fairbairn from the
Texans.
Fairbairn for the Texans. So I hope you're wrong with that one.
I mean, Fairbairn will probably do. There was a few people I looked at, kind of thing, and Carlson I just settled on. I went, you know what? If we're talking sleepers, he's the most sleeper-like person out of the kickers, because there's a load where I looked at and went, well, they're just actually good kickers, so I can't have two that are studs, so I'll go with someone that's he's not been great so far, but he has the opportunity to do well, so Carlson.
Fantastic. Ladies and gentlemen, this has been so much fun that we went way over our time, though, usually an hour. But it's clear it's been an absolute pleasure talking to you about football. Hopefully it's been cathartic for you, talking about the Chi-Town's famous boys. Thank you very much for joining us, Claire.
Thank you for having me on. Just a quick thing, it is coming up to October, and it is Crucial Catch, which is the cancer time. I've got my catch on my hat. If you've had a cough for more than 2 weeks, go and see your GP. Boys, don't miss your prostate exams and things like that. And women, go. I know it's not the funnest thing to go and get your boobs felt up by the doctor, but go and cancer kills. It's no joke, and the sooner you catch it, the better the prognosis is. So don't muck around with that.
Thank you for highlighting that. I'm sure you'll be retweeting loads of information. We'll look it out as well and make sure we share that with as many people as you can. It affects everyone. It affects everyone's families at some point in their life. So as you say, the earlier it can get treated, the better. So thank you very much. But Claire, it has been an absolute pleasure. Hopefully we'll get you on with the Bears having a wee bit of a better time off it.
When they got a W, I'll happily come on when we've got a W. So
fantastic.
Late December when it doesn't matter.
Amazing. Thank you very much. Gav, it's been an absolute pleasure, my friend. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thanks very much, Keith.
I hope your team get pumped this weekend. And Stu, a pleasure as always, buddy. Great to have you on. Thank you.
Yep, no, thanks for having me. It was fun as always. It was great meeting you as well, Claire. And Gav, I'm sorry for beating up on your Giants a bit there too, kind of thing. But you'll come good eventually.
we have been the Gridiron Crew. This has been the preview crew for week 4. If you have enjoyed the podcast and you've got this far, you may as well like and subscribe by now, guys. Come on. Follow us on Twitter, Instagram, Twitch, all the social media you can get is all over the place. We do our Crew's Missile of the Week. We've not done a guest crew for a wee while. All the crew puns that you can think of, you can find a way to squeeze it into the NFL somewhere. Looking forward to the games this weekend. If you're going to the London games, we'd love to hear from you. Send your pictures in, get your videos into us. We'd love to share them on. Be very, very jealous of you. And I hope you have a great time. I hope it's a wonderful, entertaining game as well. Get in touch with the crew. Send us a wee message and we'll be looking forward to getting any questions from you guys. And if you come up with your own kickoff question, we'd love to have a few of them from you guys as well. Thanks very much. Brian will be back next week with the review of week 4 of the NFL. But until then, enjoy your football and thanks very much for listening.